Hey, don't. It's
tip
not my
them
normal
yet.
job here, so you're just gonna get what you get.
No,
Don't throw a fit.
Oh, come on, man.
Who is super nervous?
What?
There we
There we
are.
go. You guys ready?
Ready?
Okay.
Welcome to Creative Makers Podcast with your host, Joey with Steel Blade Woodworks, Matt with Wacky Works Workshop, Jen with Jen's Turns, Jamie with JP Woodwork, and Jake with Northside Custom Crafts.
I didn't do it.
Welcome. Welcome to Creative Makers Podcast. This is episode number 58. We have Cody Elkins from Cadence MFG, Jenny Bits, and we'll put him up here. And we'll just start this off with just go ahead and tell us a little bit of intro about yourself and how you got started and how you got to where you're at now.
Yeah, well, guys, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and excited to visit with you. It is a little nerve-wracking. I mean, shoot, you guys have had people like Drew Fisher and Izzy Swan. You guys just had Daniel on the other day. Like, I'm literally honored to be, like, I don't even feel like I should be here, but it's exciting.
Us either.
Everybody's important.
Everybody's important.
Yeah. We're all the same.
And I do want to just kind of apologize in advance just a little bit because my girls were invited to like a birthday party thing today, and so I literally went there with the girls, but it was at one of those trampoline parks, so it was like super loud, and the people that were there I was trying to talk to, like I was having to talk over everybody, and I feel like I'm losing my voice. So if I sound a little raspy, I apologize. It was from being at a trampoline park for the last couple hours.
You're still sounding strong right now.
Yeah.
You're doing good.
Yeah. So yeah, my name's Cody Elkins. Gosh, I don't even know where I should start. I guess I've been a maker for as long as I can remember. I started off just like everybody else in a 2-car garage. I started with a Bob CNC, which was awesome. I loved my Bob CNC. I think my fingers are still bleeding though from all the nuts and bolts that I had to put together. But I started off with that, and next thing you know, people heard that I had a CNC router in my garage, and then all of a sudden I started making signs and other projects for other people, and then that paid for the next Bob CNC. I upgraded, and then that machine paid for my Shapeoko, and then my lasers. I have a Thunder laser, and finally I landed with my Onefinity, which is awesome. I love that thing. The new Masso controller, that thing it's next level. It's awesome. It has a lot of the same features as like this guy back there. So
It's real nice.
You just made Matt's day.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I got started. Is I just one day I told my wife, I was like, hey, you know what? I just want to build a robot in the garage. And once I finally talked her into letting me get a machine, that's how the whole thing started. And this was, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or so. So that's how I kind of got started in making stuff in my garage. But sorry, Jake, were you gonna say something?
No. I'm enjoying myself here. You just go ahead with your story if you got more.
Yeah, no. So kind of going back, and what got me started on making my own like tools is being in the maker community. I was involved in like all of the Facebook groups, and so working with other people and getting to know other people and helping other people. That's I kind of found my family, essentially, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And then over the years, I was working on a project specifically, and it was on my Shapeoko. It was on a belt-driven machine, and I was doing a bunch of like whiskey barrel wood. And with the whiskey barrel wood, man, it's really weird. Sometimes it'll be like soft, sometimes it'll be like really hard, or it's soft and hard all in the same piece of wood. And I hate sanding with a passion. And so I started buying different type of like router bits to use on my machine. And I started using the compression routers, which I absolutely loved. But the problem that I was running into is my machine didn't have enough rigidity to take the full depth of cut that it needed in order to get the benefits of a compression router. And at that time, I worked as a quality engineer at an aerospace and defense shop. And we did all kinds of big, like complex 5-axis machining. And we had to make a lot of our own custom tooling for those machines. So I already kind of had my feet wet and doing like tool design. And so when I was challenged with the whiskey barrel wood project and running it on my machine, I started making my own tool geometry to manage the rigidity issues that I was having. Oh,
Motion
sorry.
detected at the front door.
I don't know if you guys heard Alexa, but she just said hello. So
Ah. Hey,
How
we're getting
you
2 for
doing?
price of 1.
Hello
Yeah.
to your visitor too.
Hey, how you doing?
That's how we handle
So-
that.
gosh, I'm all embarrassed over here.
You're fine.
So, oh my gosh, guys, I am so sorry.
Someone is at the front door.
This is
I'm
good stuff.
literally- Yeah.
Tell them keep it knocking.
Viral reel.
Viral reel.
Going back, gosh. Well, so I have 2 Alexas going right now. I have one over here that has like the camera, and then the other one's like Echo Dot, and they both serve 2 different purposes in my shop. So the bad thing is if somebody like rings my doorbell at home, it's not even at my shop; it's at my house. I get a notification here, but the bad thing is like I shut off one and I forget this one's still on. So that's exactly what just happened.
Well,
And
it's
it's my
echoing.
secret, so that's what I'm listening to you guys on. So, anyways, sorry for the interruption.
All good.
Oh, good.
But going back, so I went to the company that I worked with to make all these custom tooling that we were using when I was at work. And I told them, I was like, hey, I want to start making my own tools. I want to start managing the rigidity issues that I was having a little bit better. And because of the relationship that I had with them over the years, I was really fortunate. They gave me like free reign to go into their shop. They're like, do whatever you need to do. Like, come on in.
Wow.
So I went in and I started making my own tools. And gosh, man, I spent a lot of time and money making several different iterations. And when I finally started getting to where what we know as the Jenny bit from today, I started sharing it on Facebook saying like, hey guys, like this is what I'm working on. And I started getting feedback from other people and they're like, hey, it'd be really cool if you could make a bit like this, or if you could try like this geometry. And so I just started playing with it and started just rolling with it. And the entire time, like never once did I did it with the intent of selling tools. Like I literally was doing it to solve my belt-driven rigidity issues on my machine, right? And so I made the first Jenny bit, and it worked really, really well with my process. And I started using it all the time, and then I just started sharing it with people on Facebook. And then everyone's like, man, that's awesome. I want to try it. And so I was like, all right, well, I hosted a group buy, and I don't remember how many people, but there were several of us. We all pooled our money together, and I had 100 of these tools made, and I hosted my very first group buy, and it organically took off from there. And so now, 3 years later, I started with the one bit, and I'll tell you how I got the name Jenny bit here in a minute. But I started with the Jenny bit, and now I think I'm like 14 or 15 tools later, I've developed and shared with everyone in the maker community, and it's been absolutely just incredible. The whole journey. And even like going into like the manufacturing process of all of it, to go from like an idea, a concept, to prototyping, designing, and then like proving it out, and then getting it into manufacturing and then into the hands of consumers, like that takes a really, really long time. And it was just crazy. And the only way I can really describe it was like, it was a total like God thing, because like every time I had an opportunity to go like to the next step, everything was already in order, and it made it really easy just to do the next thing and then figure out what the next right thing was. And then next thing you know, I have 4 different bits that I'm sharing and letting people in the community like give input and try the bits, and it's been absolutely incredible. And fast forward, here I am now visiting with you guys, making all my own tools on this sucker right here. So that's kind of like the Reader's Digest of how I got started as a maker and designing tools. And the community has been a really, really big part of my whole story. Because like I said, I never designed these tools for me to sell them. Like, it was for personal use in my 2-car garage. And then it just kind of morphed into what it is today, and it's been absolutely incredible.
That is
Super
awesome.
thankful. Like, yeah.
That's awesome. All right. For the people at home, my name is Jake Thompson from Northside Custom Crafts, and I always do an icebreaker. My icebreaker for you, Cody, is, are you like a fan of Forrest Gump or something? Because it seems like you got 12 Jennies.
I do like Forrest Gump. I think it's an awesome movie, but no, that's not how she got her name. So if it's okay, I can tell you how she became Jenny.
Yes, please do.
So when I hosted that very first group buy, right, I was talking to the company here locally that I was working with who was making my tools. And when it came to the point where I needed to make a bunch of them, they're like, okay, we gotta do things the right way now. Like, we gotta have a part number, we gotta get it in the system. And so I was like, man, I don't know. I couldn't think of a part number. And so the guys that I used to work at the shop for years and years, it was always a running joke. And anytime somebody would say, hey, what are you working on, or what part number are you working on? Without fail, somebody would be like, oh, it's 8675309. And it was just like an inside joke. And people at the shop for years and years would do that. So when they asked me to give the bit a part number, I'm like, I don't know, 8675309. Not even thinking about it, right? I just gave them that part number. And when I hosted that group buy, people saw the part number and people started calling the bit Jenny. And then the name stuck. And so now, ever since then, I thought it was such a neat story on how it started, called Jenny. And then every bit after that, I would let people submit names, and then the community would vote on the names of the bit moving forward. So I haven't named a single tool. It's all been from you guys, from the community. And now there's like the Jenny, the mini Jenny, the downtown Jenny, the uptown Jenny, the groovy Jenny, the bowl cut Jenny. I thought that one was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So would they give would you have a vote on it, or would you get certain names and then you get to pick, or like
well, so there were rules. It had to be G-rated. I didn't want to explain to my 6-year-old what voluptuous Jenny meant, right? So it had to be like G-rated. And then once they submitted a bunch of names, I'd let my wife and my 3 girls just kind of pick which one they liked. And then once we kind of had that list, I would let people on Facebook just vote on the name they liked. And so that's how all the bits have been named, with the exception of a couple of them. A couple of them, there were some people I was working with, and so I let them name the bit, but same concept.
That's pretty
voluptuous.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's how the Jenny name came about, and even like the logo. I don't know if you can visualize the logo or not, but in the logo, so there's like Jenny, and then in the J there's the actual first like compression router, but then on the bottom like right hand corner there's like lips on there. And my wife, when I was talking to her about it, we were kind of joking about when girls would leave a note on the truck of your car, right? Like, and it like a love letter or whatever, and be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then they would kiss the letter and just like leave it on your vehicle. Or, when my wife, if she'd leave love notes, something like that. And so we just thought it was kind of fitting and funny, Jenny, and then like phone number, and then the lips on there. So it was actually my wife's idea to incorporate, the Jenny lips, but. So that's how we got the name and the logo, and all that stuff. So
Nice.
yeah.
There you go.
I think it's pretty awesome. Everybody at home, I am Jen E with Jen's Turn. Cody, thanks for joining us. I went back a ways in your Instagram and I saw that a while back you partnered with Carveco, and there's a database. What
Yep.
is the database for, and how do users access it? Like, what kind of data is in there?
So the nice thing is if you use Carveco as your programming software for, creating your G code for your machines, there's a tool database list on there. And what you can do is you can go and download it, and it has all of the feeds and speeds pre-programmed, and all of the bits already in there. So you don't have to manually go in there and put in the bit geometry and the feeds and speeds. It's already ready to go.
Oh, nice.
So I was lucky enough to work with Carveco, and they kind of helped me get all that set up. And then I also did the same thing with Vectric and with Carbide Create.
Okay.
So you can go in there regardless of, well, I guess those are the only three that I have, but you can download the tool database, and it'll already have all that stuff pre-populated, and just makes it a lot easier, especially for people. Well, yeah, it's the feeds and speeds. So it'll tell you like recommended inches per minute, your like plunge rate, plunge depth, or whatever, RPM. It just kind of predefines that for you.
Your flutes, all that stuff. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, that's nice, because that can be overwhelming to somebody that's just now like putting stuff in for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's and I get messages about it all the time. They're like, hey, what should I be running my feeds and speeds at for this? And it's kind of hard sometimes because there are so many variables, right? I mean, everything from your work holding, if you're using a trim router, or if you're using a spindle, if you have a belt driven machine, if you're using a big industrial machine, like all of that's going to affect your feeds and speeds, even the type of wood you're cutting. Some woods are a lot more dense than others. And so you got to keep a close eye on your RPMs and your inches per minute. And so it's nice to kind of set that as a baseline for people. And then I always tell people, start there and then increase your feed rate or decrease your feed rate depending on like your comfort zone and how it sounds. Are you getting a nice fluffy chip? Does it sound good? Is it screaming at you? You can make those little adjustments to get it dialed in. But at least you have a good baseline to start from.
Mine sounds like Animal Planet sometimes.
Jake, speaking of which, I mean, once I release that new O-flute bit, I might be hitting you up on some feeds and speeds, because I know you cut plastic all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I might be hitting you up and seeing how you like to run your tools.
Let's do it. I'm in.
Nice.
Yep.
I'm easy like that. Let's do it.
Everybody at home, I'm Matt with Wacky Works. I just got to ask you, Cody, going from a Bob CNC, which is, I believe, a wooden CNC that you put together, is it not? Yeah.
Yes.
Compared to the Onefinity, tell me your experiences between the two.
I mean, it's night and day different. It's almost not fair to compare them side by side, just because one, it is all wooden and you put it together and it's a kit. You know what I mean? And it's the Bob CNC. I will always have a special place in my heart for that machine. I know Bob Wood pretty well. I've got to know him over the years. He's an awesome dude. So if anybody's looking for a fun project to put together, check out Bob CNC. It's a fun little project, but it's made out of wood, and it's made out of smaller stepper motors and smaller belts. And so when you compare that to something like the Onefinity Elite, I mean, you're dealing with ball screws and linear rails, and it's just two totally different animals. It'd be like, I don't even know what you'd compare it to. Like your very first car you buy when you're 16, and it's like a beater that gets you from point A to point B, And then you get a little bit older, and then you can get like, okay, so I never thought I would say this, but my wife, she got a minivan.
Oh yeah.
Hey, some of them are tricked out now. Some are tricked out.
I never thought I'd be a minivan dude, but this thing is awesome. It is like, it is so nice to use. It has all the fancy bells and whistles, and you know, the kids are comfortable. But like, I couldn't imagine hauling all my kids in my, what was it, a 1988 Dodge Ram, like with a 316 motor in it, single cab. Like, that was my first truck, right? And I loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to haul my kids around in it, you know? So looking at like a Bob CNC versus like the Onefinity, they both have their place and they're both fantastic. You know, I will never, ever say like, oh, I hated my very first vehicle. I mean, it was my first vehicle. I loved it, right? Same way with my Bob CNC, you know, but it's too.
Well, it's kind of like comparing a diode laser to a CO laser or something like that. You're just stepping up. Yeah. It still does the job. It does the job. How long do you want to do it for?
Yep, it gets you from point A to point B. Gotcha. And honestly, like, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys today if I would have never bought that Bob CNC. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like that, I'll always have a special place in my heart for that.
There you go. All right, welcome everybody. I'm Jamie from JP Woodwork, and welcome to you, Cody. So you'll have to bear with me tonight. I know absolutely nothing about CNCs. The extent of my knowledge is I know a few people that own them. So that being said, my first question is, what does CNC stand for?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah,
I believe it stands for computer numeric controlled.
There we go. On to the next.
Yeah, you guys, I need somebody to fact check me though. So if somebody,
I'm doing it now because I don't know either.
Matt's that guy.
Computer numeric controlled. Yes, that is exactly what it stands for.
Correct.
You are correct.
Correct.
I should know. Dude, I've been a machinist and working in machine shops since I was a teenager. Like I should know what it means. So I'll take that as a win.
So since Jamie just messed around, so going full time, was there like a particular time or a particular tool run that you said, okay, this is it, I need to go full time, or did it just happen slowly, or was there a particular moment where you said, I need to quit the job?
That's actually a great question. And so I can tell you for me and like my family and where we were at. So I was working full time. And then as the bits became more popular and people started learning about them more, there became more of a demand for it. So I started working. And by the way, like all of my stuff was American made right here in Arizona. I have a huge personal conviction of keeping stuff made in the USA. So I had everything made here locally. But the problem is like, I was the smallest fish in a huge pond of like companies that needed tooling made for their processes. I mean, I was competing against like Northrop Grumman, GE, Honeywell, all of those big companies. They have tools made for their manufacturing processes. So when I would come into these guys and say, hey, I need to have 150 Jenny bits made, they're like, yeah, we'd love to do it for you, but it's going to be about 8 weeks before I can get you your tools.
They're like, that's cute.
It's like, yeah, exactly. Right. So, and don't get me wrong, like the guys that I was working with, I'm still really good friends with all of them. And I still lean heavily on them, especially as I'm learning to be a better tool grinder and, programming. Like I still work with those guys all the time. They've been phenomenal as it relates to support and stuff. But it got to a point where like the long lead times, it was killing me. And I had to figure something else out. And I was working full time, and then I would come home and I felt like I was working another full-time job because I was answering emails. I literally had a command center set up in my garage and a whole like shipping station. And so I had like all my inventory, and every night I would go home and I would ship product. And then on my way to work the next day, I would leave early, and then I'd hit up the USPS kiosk, and I would manually scanning each one because they weren't open yet.
Boop.
Yeah,
I do it all the time.
I did that for a couple of years, and then it just got to a point where I needed to figure out a better way to do it. And after, man, honestly, a lot of prayer and a lot of consideration, and a lot of just like good conversations with my wife. My wife really pushed me into like, she's like, you just need to do it. She's like, we're young enough now where if this thing goes belly up, we're young enough to recover. You know, I'm still young enough to, if I needed to go get a job where I used to, like, I can still take care of my family if this didn't work. And so again, after just the consideration and having these conversations and working with companies like Onefinity, we decided to go all in. And so I quit my job and went massively into debt and bought that sucker. and I don't regret any of it. I absolutely love it. I love having these conversations. I love working with the community. I love being a part of, CNC with me and working with Carveco and Onefinity, and just the CNC community is like a special community. I don't know how else to explain it. They're the most helpful, like encouraging group of people I've ever been with. And it's like, that's where I want to be, So it also, even though it's super scary, and there's a lot that goes into running a machine shop, like having the freedom to like work on my schedule so I can be there more for my family. Like we homeschool our kids. And so now that I'm working for myself, that gives me more opportunities to go on a Friday afternoon to do a field trip with them or whatever, so it's been awesome. It's been incredible. And it's been a huge blessing. It's been great.
That is true. I hope about the CNC community. The CNC community is like different because it's more encouragement than criticism.
It is.
Like you can totally tell that everybody's there to encourage everybody. There's other genres of things to do that there's more trolling involved, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And there's some knuckleheads out there. You still got to deal with them, but they're few and far between. And they usually like self-eject because everybody else is like you. And you know what I mean? Like they want to help
get out
the other maker. Yeah. It's more about community instead of competition. And I don't know. I just think there's something special about that. And being in it at this capacity, nice. It's awesome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Having a strong support system at home, like your wife and your family supporting you in that, and even your friends, it's so important. It can make such a difference in your outlook and your drive. And, it just really affects people a lot of the time and how far they're willing to go, even to put themselves out there and try it. So does your wife, after encouraging you and supporting you in the business, does she actually have a role in the business, or is home and work separate?
So we homeschool we have 5 kids. One actually graduated and like moved out, and he's adulting now and got his very first apartment. So I'm super proud of all of them.
Nice.
But it's funny because he moved out and then my wife and I had another baby. So right now with an infant in the house and then a 2-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-year-old, my wife's pretty busy. Yeah. But she does help a lot with like when I'm packaging. So every single order I've ever got from day one, I personally sign every single one telling them thank you.
Nice.
And sometimes my wife will help me because I'll have like 50 orders and it's like, man, that's a lot of thanks, you're a blessing to us, like Cody, so she'll hop on there and she'll help me sign some of them. I still go in there. I was like, I need to sign my name though. That's like one thing. So whenever she signs them, I make sure I put my name on there too, because it's just important to me. So from that capacity, she helps out tremendously, and she has way better handwriting than I do. So
That's why I could read the ones I got. Okay.
yeah. So yeah, she does help a lot from that perspective. But when it comes to being here and running the machine and like grinding tools, like I have my own shop in Tempe and we live in Mesa, so she's at home doing homeschool and taking care of the little ones.
Nice.
Yep.
Which is another full-time job, so God bless her too. So.
Man, she's the strongest lady I have ever met in my life. Like it's a lot to take care of all those kids, and she's killing it on the homeschool front. And yeah, it's awesome. That's another community too that we're really proud to be a part of. It's like the homeschool community, and because there's a ton of people there. A lot of them are small business owners, and they see the value in it too. And so it's kind of cool having that community too, because I feel like they kind of overlap often. Because a lot of those people, they're makers also.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's neat.
So let's talk about your CNC and the software that you use to run it. Both.
Okay.
So you have a CNC 6-axis, is that correct?
So I think technically it's 5-axis. You can argue it's 6, but 5-axis. Yeah,
And
X,
what-
Y, Z, A, C. Yeah, so 5.
5-axis, okay. 5-axis axis
Half the
CNC
alphabet.
and half. Yeah, I'm telling you, we're fixing to start using numbers. So, what software does that run off of? And I mean, I'm sure I'm not just going and using Vectrex or something like that. Am I? Or
No, so it's a proprietary software that they use for the Anka CNC machines.
okay,
So it's called iGrind, and it works directly with the machine. So it knows the motion, it knows everything about the machine, and it's really nice too, because when you set up to design a new tool, and you start putting in all your information, like the helix, and if it's an upcut or downcut or what type of in-face finish it's going to have, it's all like process based. So it's really neat. I kind of wish the machine was running right now because I could show you, but it literally breaks it down like step by step. And so you'll have your flute from solid step, and that's where it goes in there, and it's taking out all the material where your flutes are at. And then there's like your in-face finish, and it's pretty conversational. But the nice thing is on the software is it has a simulation that's the exact same model as my machine. So I can program a tool, and then I can run it on my simulator to make sure I don't have any crashes when I actually run it.
that's nice.
So Anka, they have their proprietary programming software that works directly with the machine, and I think that's common for tool grinding machines in general. They all have their own programming software.
Are you using just like regular steel for that, or is that an HSS or
Nope, it's all carbide.
all carbide? Oh, nice. And then you have a coating that you put on them, though, right?
I do. So me working in the aerospace and defense industry, when I started making my own tools for personal use, I was using the same grade and type of carbide for our big aerospace parts. And I use them on my tools, on my woodworking tools. So I'm using really a high grade, high quality carbide. And then the coating that I use a zirconium nitride coating. And there's so much when it goes to coatings like that. That's a science in and of itself. But it's really fascinating because with the coatings that they're using and the technology that they're using today, that zero end coating compared to a carbide tool that doesn't have coating, it can increase your tool life up to 3 times.
Wow.
And for some of the reasons behind that is because heat is the number one thing that will break down the cutting edge on any carbide tool. It doesn't matter what brand it is. It doesn't matter if you buy them from me or if you buy them from a big box store. If you're burning up your bits, it's going to make it go dull quick, right? So that zirconium nitride coating, it has a really high lubricity value, and it actually, I don't remember the hardness, the Rockwell hardness on it, but it makes it harder too, the actual wear surface. But it helps evacuate the chips faster, and in doing so, you carry the heat away with the chip, which will make your tools last longer.
There you go.
And they're super pretty. So I got one right here. I don't
Look at there.
They're beautiful.
Pretty, Jenny.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
There
Probably
you
doesn't
go.
look good with that light right there, but it's a really pretty coating.
Nice.
Nice.
And I put that on all of my tools. It's just something I was like, okay, it worked really good for me for my process when I started, and so I just made that available for all of my tools.
Nice.
Mm.
Awesome.
Yep.
Jamie, I'm going to jump in front of you with a question from the
Yep,
chat.
go ahead.
Mark would like to know, how do you keep up with the software and hardware updates for the CNC?
So that's a good question too. So Inca, I work pretty closely with them. So especially over the last year, anytime that there was a software update, they just give me the software update, and then we put it on there and run it out. But it's one of those things that once your machine, I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for what's been working well for me. There's a lot that goes on in that machine. So that machine, you program it, you grind your tools. I have an ultra precision laser in there, and the laser actually goes in there and it measures every single tool after it grinds it. And then it has an automatic wheel offset adjustment where it'll move the wheel depending on how the last tool measured on the OD. And so what that does is that ensures that from the very first tool to the last tool in the production run, you're getting 100% inspection and you're making good tools. So this machine is fully automated. I can load up like 200 tools on a pallet and let it run for like 35 hours straight unattended.
Wow.
But in doing so, you need to make sure that, the coolant's good, making sure that the coolant is at the right temperature. The laser measures every single tool, and then it'll adjust the process to maintain repeatability and the accuracy of it. So all of that to be said, when it goes to like software updates, once it's running good, I kind of don't want to do brand new software updates because I don't want it to accidentally mess something up and then have it cause a problem for something else down the road. So all of the software updates that I have, it's been with me working with Inca specifically to improve the process. I hope that makes sense, but
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to change something that you've already got it dialed in.
no. And these machines, I mean, they're using no pun intended, but it's cutting edge technology. It really is. It's using it's using linear motors, so there's no ball screws in there. It's literally floating, which makes it really fast, really accurate. It's pretty incredible technology.
Wow.
Well, I know I can't be trusted for 35 hours straight, so I mean, you got a good machine.
Well, and that's the nice thing about these machines is there's a lot of redundancies built into it. So when you're grinding, there's a spindle load, and it'll tell you what the actual spindle load is. And if it gets too high, you can put safeguards in there where it'll stop grinding. It'll say, "Hey, something's wrong," or if there's not the proper like coolant flow. I mean, there's several things. It can actually be a little temperamental. Have it alarm out when I don't want it to alarm out, but they're pretty awesome machines. And believe it or not, the coolant that you use, it's flammable. so the grinding. Yeah. Well, and that's why there's so many like safety and backup redundancies built into the machine, because if you're not careful, you can light up your machine and have it like go up in flames. And so I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, I guess you can. So that red thing right there,
Yeah.
So that's an onboard fire suppression system. So if I light up my machine, it'll detect it and it'll put everything out so I don't burn down my shop or the machine.
I want one of those on my laser.
Does it have its own air conditioning system, basically?
So how these machines work, because they're closed, because they're electromagnetic motors, they generate a lot of heat. So when you're grinding tools and you're trying to hold a tolerance, it's plus or minus 0.2. That's 0.0001 of an inch.
Wow.
When you're trying to hold tolerances that close, due to thermal expansion and contraction, you can have tools go out of tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
So this machine is a built-in chiller. It's not built-in; it's actually outside of the machine. So that big, it's really hard to do this, by the way, looking at a camera.
Yeah.
So that's
backwards.
an exhaust system. Yeah, it is. It's all backwards. But that's an exhaust system for the chiller. It's got a 24,000 BTU chiller, and what it does is the same grinding oil that's used when you're grinding, and it's like squirting all over where the grinding wheels are and the carbide.
Mm-hmm.
That same coolant actually goes through that cooling system, and then it goes through the cooling jackets and the motors, and so that's what it's used to cool the machine.
Okay.
And it's a closed loop system. So when I have the machine on, it's constantly flowing oil going through all the motors, and it's right now I think I have it set at 69 degrees, 70 degrees, and it stays at 70 degrees at all times. So when you open up the door, I mean, it's cold inside the machine.
Nice.
You can feel it. Yeah.
When you come in the mornings, is there like a set of checklists that you have to run through before you start the machine, or can you just take off, let's say, from the night before you went home the night before? So that's a blessing and a cursing of being a small business owner and working by myself. There's nobody here. So I don't have a really good set checklist. I just come in every day and just know where I need to pick up from the night before type of thing, which it's actually funny because me being a quality engineer, that's what I did is I literally wrote quality systems that met the AS9100 and the NADCAP quality requirements. And everything was like completely detailed. So you had to have like process maps and have all these. I mean, it was a documented procedure for everything from request for quote to shipping product out the door. And you'd think I would have something like that, but because I'm by myself, I haven't done it yet. So maybe one day,
a QA.
yeah. So maybe when my girls get a little bit older, if they want to work for me in the shop, I'll definitely have a checklist on everything that needs to get done and how to set up the machine. And yeah.
There you go.
No, that's a great question. Just encouraged me to get on the ball and start documenting stuff.
You talked about the coding a minute ago. Do you do that yourself? Do you send it out? Is there like a...
Yeah, no, I
Can you
don't
send
do
them
the
10 bits and they code them, or is there a minimum? Like, how does that whole process go?
So I don't think I will ever get in the coding business. Like, I don't want to deal with the EPA. So because of that, I will always outsource the coding process. But I send that to another company here locally. They're about 15 minutes from me. That process, it's really cool. It's like $1 million machine that they use for the coding process. And typically because I've become good friends with them, they'll run a smaller quantity for me, but typically they want at least 300 tools at a time. So I'll manufacture 300 tools and then I'll bring them to coding and then they'll run them for me. But every once in a while, like I had 100 of them ready the other day, and I was like, "Hey, I'm really hot for these. Can you run them?"
Super. It's not.
Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, we'll do it." So
that coding's not just that coding's not a DIY process by any means. Then.
No, they actually put that coating on a lot of firearms. So there's like DLC coatings and, you know, the ZRN. There's also it's called Alten. I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's like an aluminum and like tin coating. It has different features for different processes when you're machining. You know, so.
Very nice.
Yeah, but I don't think I would ever do that in house. I think I'll stay close friends with my coating company.
You got to have
There you go.
partners.
There you go.
All right. So we've mostly been talking about CNCs and using your bits with CNCs and that stuff, but I'm assuming that it's okay to use the bits in regular handheld routers or table routers. I have a Shaper Origin handheld CNC. They work in all the things, right? Or do you recommend only for CNC because of the speed rate?
No. Well, a lot of the CNC machines, a lot of the people I sell to, they have trim routers on their CNC. So they're already being used kind of in that application. So there's a couple of local wood stores here who sell the Shaper Origin, and they refer my tools to like every single one of their customers because it just works so well for them. The biggest thing is you just want to make sure you're not getting sawdust when you're cutting, because if you're getting a bunch of sawdust, you know, you could be heating up your tool. Yeah. So as long as you just bring your RPMs down and you're using your Shaper, like I said, I've had a ton of customers who have a Shaper Origin that are using the tools, especially like the downshear cutters. I have a lot of guys who like using that, and the compression router too. So the unique thing about the compression router, and I didn't mention this earlier, but the upcut portion is what I did to make it more unique for people like us who have hobby grade machines or a Shaper. So with having the shorter upcut portion on the bit, the minimum depth of cut required to use the Jenny bit, it's only an 1/8 inch.
Motion detected at the front door.
Sorry. Anyways, so as long as if you're using like the compression router on a Shaper, you can run an 1/8 inch depth of cut all day long, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So for those reasons, that's why a lot of people really like using the Jenny bit, because it doesn't overtax your machine as it relates to the rigidity issues.
Nice. Okay. That's good to know.
Jamie, am I explaining this okay to you since you don't have a CNC?
I'm taking it all in. I'm taking it all in.
Oh yeah.
I'm waiting for the day. One day you're gonna get one, man.
One day.
He's looking for that scroll saw attachment. That's what he's waiting for.
That's it. Yeah. At the moment, I'm just going to run around in circles with one in my hand.
So, they actually use these same machines to make drills, reamers, end mills, router bits. I can program all of that stuff and run it on this machine. And even like insert cutters. So, you'll have like an insert cutter that has a certain profile. Gosh, what would be a good example? So like door trim, right? You know how it has like that certain profile. So those tools are made on the same exact type of machine as this.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Do you? Oh, sorry, I'm going to jump in again and ask another question because it popped
Go
in my head. Do you get a lot of people asking for custom bits? Like, do they say, well, you got the OG over here, but I really want it to do it at this degree instead of what's already out there?
I do. And for the most part, I'm not doing a lot of custom stuff for people, just because I need to make sure that I am maintaining the stuff that I need to maintain for my website and for the community. But I have done a couple one-offs. I have done a couple bits specifically. So I actually partnered with Winnebago. So Winnebago is using my tools now, specifically in one of their plants. They had me make them a unique compression router for them, and it's been awesome. That was within the last 2 months.
That's cool.
Started working with them, and a couple other like big companies. So there's it's like Johnson something. I can't remember their name, and I apologize if you're watching, but they make all of the fatigue mats for like Ford and Fiat, and they're like higher end fatigue mats, and they're using a special material that's like laminated, and so they needed a special compression router that had a certain flute length that would work well for their process. So they reached out to me and asked if I could make them a custom tool for that job, and it worked great for them, and so now they're buying all those tools from me specifically now.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's I mean, they haven't bought a lot of tools yet because it's still relatively new, but it was still nice being able to go in there and like they had a problem and I was able to help solve that problem and make their process better.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah, I love that part of it. So
Nice.
So, being a small business, you got to always kind of look to the future. Where are you looking next? Where are you looking to go to next?
So, I want to continue growing the Jenny line of tools. There are several other tools that I really want to make. I'm just not tooled up for it yet, but I'm getting there. I just have to do a little bit more investing into the company. It's really, really expensive. So it's gonna take a little bit of time, but I am definitely looking into doing bigger diameter tooling, so 3/8 up to 1/2 inch.
Okay.
So this machine, I bought the upgraded spindle, so I can go up to 1/2 inch tooling, and so I really want to start making some 1/2 inch compression routers and 3/8 compression routers and downshear bits and all of that stuff. It's just a matter of just time and just getting tooled up for it. So
is that 1/2 inch diameter cutting capacity, or is that 1/2 inch diameter shank?
both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a 1/2 inch cutter on a 1/2 inch shank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
All
right
right.
now, like my V bits, those are 3/8 diameter bits, but I turn them down to have a 1/4 inch shank for our machines.
Okay.
But now that a lot more people are getting like spindles and they have the ER20 collets, well, now they can go up to 3/8 diameter and even up to 1/2 inch diameter. And so I have a lot of people asking for like 1/2 inch diameter end mills, and so I really want to provide that. But for now, I'm just gonna keep chopping wood and pushing forward, and I got that new O-flute bit that's coming out. So.
Hey,
So once things start settling
Oh,
down
yeah.
from that aspect, I'll start looking into getting into bigger tooling. So yeah, so that's not a really like projected out long-term goal. I think that's more of a medium long-term goal.
I think that, you gotta have the small and then the medium. I think if you go too far out in the future, it just kind of gets clouded. But
Well, and in being a small business owner and me being the only one here, I don't want to grow myself out of business, right? So I'm really trying to make wise decisions moving forward, being really particular on the types of products I'm designing and working on, because I don't want to get to a point where it's like I start making something and then for some reason I can't follow through. Like I just don't want to be in that position. So I want to just strategically and slowly grow my business to get to that point.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's another question from the chat. Mark says, right now, are all of your bits 1/4 inch shank?
Yes, sir. Right now, all of my tools. Well, I'm sorry, I take that back. I make some 1/8 inch diameter tooling also.
That's the slim.
So so the Seel-Jenn is an 1/8 inch downshear, but that's on a 1/4 inch shank.
Okay.
So there's the mini Jenny, which is the 1/8 inch compression router, and then there's the 1/8 inch downtown Jenny, and that's a downshear cutter, but it's also on a 1/8 inch shank.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 1/8 inch diameter and 1/4 inch.
Nice.
Okay, time to do a bit more learning. All right. Earlier on in the show, you mentioned the upcut and the downcut bit. What are the differences between the two, and when is the best time to use them?
So So really, I think there's 3 different categories there, because you do have your upcut bit, right, and you do have your downcut bit, but then you have your compression router, and your compression router is both. That's both an upcut and a downcut bit. So for me, what I personally use my tools for, I use the 1/4-inch downtown Jenny, which is a 1/4-inch down shear bit, and the original Jenny bit, which is the compression router. I use that for 90% of all my stuff for 2 reasons. One, I hate doing tool changes, and so I try to design all of my stuff around the same tool. But if you are cutting pockets, right, you'll typically want to use a down shear bit, because what's happening is as you're cutting, the down shear portion of the tool geometry is forcing the fibers down into your material and is preventing the chip out. So if you have something that's previously painted, or if you're like working on something that's really prone to chip out, down shear bits are the way to go. That'll give you the nicest, cleanest finish on top. The upcut bits. So I have a lot of people using the upcut bits if they're doing like massive hog outs, if they're removing a bunch of material and they don't really care about what the finish is going to look like. They'll be using that. Or if they're cutting something like plastic, where you really want to get the chips up and out to make sure that you're not remelting the plastic, you'll use upcut bits for that. But my favorite is the compression router. And why that's my favorite and why it's my go-to is, so specifically with mine, the way I designed it, the minimum depth of cut required is an 1/8 inch. So if you're cutting a pocket and you're at least an 1/8 inch deep or deeper, I use my compression router because it gives me the nice clean top edge. It's really hard to explain this without like pictures or like the actual bit. So on the upcut portion, it's 0.1 of an inch. There's a transition point where it goes from your upcut to downcut. Mm-hmm. And where that transition point is, it's about 0.075 is where the down shear starts. And then there's an overlap section, and then it goes all downcut for the rest of the bit up, right? So the first section is an upcut, and then it transitions to a downcut, and then it's a downcut bit. So if you're cutting a pocket and you're at least an 1/8 of an inch or deeper, you're going to get the benefits of the down shear and not have chip out on the top of your whatever pocket you're cutting. But you'll also have a really nice finish in the bottom of your pocket, because the up flute or the up shear is getting all those chips up and out, and it just looks good. But that's not the main purpose of a compression router. I just designed mine that way because it worked really well for my process, and I didn't want to sand. So that's why I designed that one. But the other thing that's really cool is if you're cutting out a profile on, let's say, 3/4 inch plywood, when you plunge all the way through and you're doing that final pass, the upcut portion is pulling the fibers up into your material from the bottom. Sure. And then your down shear portion is pushing the chips down from the top. So when you're doing a profile cut of whatever it is, you're going to get a really, really nice smooth finish on the top and bottom. So it's going to eliminate like 90% of your sanding. So that's what's really nice about the compression routers.
So I can actually understand what you was talking about, because I use a reverse tooth blade on a scroll saw. And that's very, very similar to what you're doing, because the bottom half goes up and the top half goes down. So that's how I was able to follow along with what you were saying.
So same exact concept, but just on an end mill, on
a spirally dangerous thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how you do it, Jamie. Association.
Finger here.
Yeah. So I hope that answered it well, and kind of like the use case applications. Some of the other tools I make, and I'm really proud about this, and I can stab my flag in the ground. Like I developed the world's first down shear V-bit. And so that's been really, really awesome too, because a lot of guys who are making like flags, especially if they have a union that's already like pre-painted or whatever, they're using a down shear V-bit because they don't want to sand the material that they've already painted, right? And then the other thing too is a lot of guys who are using like ore mask. So when you're cutting ore mask, you risk having lifting of the masking. So you want to use like a down shear cutter to make sure you get that nice crisp, clean cut on the top edge. Well, until a year and a half ago, they didn't make a down shear V-bit. And so I managed to figure out and made a down shear V-bit for guys who are using a lot of masking or using ore masks, so they'll get a nice clean cut and help prevent the lifting. And it's been awesome. It's probably been one of the most popular bits that I've made.
Awesome.
And I made that in the 30, the 60, and 90 degree. And they're all
Nice.
down shear.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Nice.
Yep.
That is awesome. Cody, we're about at an hour right now. And
Okay.
this is about the time we have all your links below. So if you just want to tell everybody if you have something coming up or how to find you. And
Yeah, well, gosh, guys, thanks again for putting up with me for an hour.
It went quick. You did good.
It's no, it's been a lot of fun, and I love this community. I really, really do. And I don't know. I just want to say thanks. If you guys wanted to check me out, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I don't do YouTube, but I'm friends with a lot of people who do. So you might see the Jenny bits out there on other people's channels. But yeah, you can go to my website or hit me up on Facebook or Instagram and give me a shout. Say hello. We'll start talking about nerdy stuff like CNC.
There you go.
There you
sure
go.
will. Here's our Jenny. Oops, if you get over there.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you again, Cody. I really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better and a little more about the CNC world and the bits. There's not a lot going on here right now. Things are a little quiet. I did go to my first Chamber of Commerce mixer last night, so that was a new experience and trying to get the business out there a little bit more.
Movie stars.
Yeah, no more movie star.
Fancy.
Mm-hmm.
That is all.
Okay. Matthew.
I am still working on my CNC. Like I said, the transition from pro to elite is a total difference. So working on that and trying to get all that taken care of, and shooting the video takes a lot longer. So, but that's where I'm at.
Jamie.
I don't have a CNC. I've been working on for months. So I've been out here in the workshop just doing some turning and editing. And obviously Saturday morning cartoons on Saturday, obviously, because it's Saturday.
Is it Saturday?
It's Saturday.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Jamie. We have Saturday morning cartoons. We're going to do some giveaways. Hopefully give away one of Jenny's cups and make some cool things and talk about some stuff. And then we're going to go ahead and have Dreadnought Workshop. We're going to have Daryl from Dreadnought
Workshop.
And that's about it. And
Yep.
Jake's got a delay.
My screen is like, we're about done. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Hey.
Okay.
Hey. Same time next week, same beautiful faces, blah, 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 blah. And here we go.